today we're going to look at the background and all sorts of ways to make this look seamless and adjust the colors. So first, this is obviously what we're aiming for. We are not trying to match it exactly. We are trying to get the general aesthetic, the general vibe of the image. You do not have to have the exact same fish. You do not have to have everything be exactly the same. You can have some artistic license here, but this is the general aim. So let's look at what we have done so far. We separated out some fish. We made this look like one cohesive boat with the girl. You could have her dress tucked in or hanging over the side, whatever you want. But now we have to deal with this weird cloud, like sea of clouds that's going on, and make that more seamless with the rest of the image. So I'm going to start by shutting these off just so that I can easily see this background layer. And first we're going to look at this layer 4. And we don't want this blue sky up here. So let's take a second and get rid of that. And there's a couple ways that you can do that. So with the lasso tool, I can draw along the edge of the clouds somewhere and just kind of loop it around. Oh, shoot. Didn't mean to do that. But that's all right. We can create a layer mask here and cut that out. But you know what? I don't really love how that creates a very crisp line. So instead, I am going to, now that I have a clipping mask, and you could do that with the selection tool too, I am going to go in, click on the layer mask, use the paintbrush. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Because they're clouds and they're wispy, I'm going to turn the hardness all the way down. Oh, that's the black. So the black up here, we're going to soften this. There we go. There we go. Soften this up. There we go. All right. So we got something nice going on up the top. I'm going to switch my colors and I'm going to add back in this corner that I forgot to lasso. So I'm painting with white to add things back in. So if I felt like, oh, maybe I didn't want to take out this ridge over here, I could add that back in. If I want to add it back a little bit here, I can do that. And if I decide, you know what, no, I want to take it out, I can switch it back to black, and there it goes again. Super, super easy. Now I'm going to add back in my fish and my boat, because now I want the foreground, which is the fish and the girl in the boat. I want that to kind of fit cohesively in with this sea of clouds too. So let's click on the layer masks for the fish. The top fish doesn't really need anything done, but the middle fish, we can add some clouds back in around the fish, make him look like he's kind of in the clouds. I don't love his placement all that much, so I'll go to his actual layer and move him down a little bit. I'm just using my arrows on the keyboard. And I'll go back to his layer mask to, now that I know exactly where he actually is going to sit, I will plan accordingly there. I think I added a little too much of the clouds into his wee little body there, so I'll add that back in. Great, I like how he is. Move to the bottom fish. I've got my paint to black. Well, I don't really love his placement either. So I'm going to move him up a little bit. His layer, I want him to kind of be in a particular part of the cloud. So there we go. There's a little ridge here. I think that's perfect for him. I'll go back to my layer. So I'm thinking about how the fish interact with the space. And that's one of the elements that is going to make this actually look cohesive. And while not realistic necessarily, surrealistic, if you'll allow it. If that sounds like it makes a little bit of sense. So that it's somewhat believable. All right. Another area that needs a little attention is in the boat. We want to make that boat look like it's in the clouds. So using my paintbrush again, I'm going to wisp up some clouds. There we go. We got a little mistiness up there. There we go. Maybe a little mistiness along the back. And maybe I went too far. So I'll switch it, take that out. There we go. We're looking pretty good. Now, we have to address the rest of the background. So we'll turn off our boat looks good. Our fish looks good. We'll turn those off for right now. So let's take a look at what is there and what really makes a difference. So if we look at the finished one, it seems kind of crazy at first glance that these 4 layers of clouds are necessary, or these 4 background layers are necessary. But when we start to remove them, it then becomes a little more obvious why so many layers are needed. So we're looking here, we've got this background layer that really sets the tone for the whole thing. And then we've got these like dark clouds that kind of create the halo effect of sorts. And then we've got the sky that's kind of the base sky. So if we take them down in this direction, we've got this base color, we've got a little moody thing going on, we've got this bright sky, and then the foundational sea of clouds. So also when we're looking at these, we have to know why this makes a difference, turning this layer 1 off and on. And the reason for that is that these are set to different modes. So this one's set to soft light, this one's set to hard light, and the different kinds of light make the layers behind have a different effect. Okay, so hard light is the right choice for this. But it's not just a fully normal, non-transparent layer. There's a little bit of transparency built into it. It's like painting on a piece of clear paper instead of painting on a piece of white paper. So these things do matter. So we're going to work from the bottom up. We don't need to do anything to layer 1. But for sky 1, we're just going to affect the curves. I'm going to turn off layer 4. I'm going to leave sky 2 on for a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to this half circle. It's a new adjustment layer. And I am going to go to curves. And it is going to open up this box. This line here is what we're manipulating. We can pull a little bit down to create these kind of darker colors. So this is making it very dark. This is making it very bright. And we usually want kind of an S curve, but in this particular case, the point of this particular layer is to kind of darken things up around the edges, to give it a bit of a vignette situation. So I'm just going to pull down a little bit. So I'm going to leave it at that. you could adjust it a little bit differently. You can also put another point on this line and affect the highs and the lows. You know what? I kind of like that. I'll leave it like this for us. Okay. Now, so we've got a curves layer on here. So if I take this sky off, it's now with this super moody layer that adds a bunch of darkness. But we're going to move on to sky 2. Sky 2, we're going to do a little color balance to adjust the color of the sky. So I am going to, once again, add a new adjustment layer down here with the half circle. I am going to do color balance. And color balance is adjusting these combinations of color on a sliding scale. So what we want to do is we want to just add a bunch of color to the sky. So we can up the reds and it turns just brighter in that way, less blue and more red. Maybe we want it to be magenta. Maybe we want it to be a little green. I like the magenta. The purpliness is dreamy. We could turn up the blue to make it super sky-like. Or we can turn up the yellow and make it that more sepia, the like antique color. So I'm gonna go somewhere in between. A little bit more yellow, but not a lot. It just will add a little bit of gold in there. Okay, so I'm gonna close that. And then I'm going to look at layer 4. So I'm turning layer 4 back on. And now we are going to help it kind of blend in theme and aesthetics with the background. Before we start, I'm gonna take a little bit more off of the background. Oops, this way. I'll turn this up a little bit. I feel like now that I've adjusted the light, I feel differently about where this line should be. I do want a little bit more of the sky to be showing. So I'm going to just shave off a little bit with my paint. There we go. All right. Now, I'm going to click back on the layer itself. I was on the vector mask, but I'm now on the layer itself. And I am going to adjust the color balance here too. So I'm going to do an adjustment layer, the half circle, color balance. And I'm going to play around with the colors a little bit. Probably similar to what happened to the other background. Turn the red up. I'm going to turn down towards magenta. I'm going to turn down towards the yellow. And we're going to try to get it to feel all like it's one atmosphere, right? I like that. I think it's working for me. And then I'm also going to adjust the curves on this. I am going to choose the layer again. I'm going to do an adjustment layer and I'm going to adjust the curves. So once again, we can play with the lows, make it a little darker. We can play with the highlights. We can make it a little brighter. The goal is to make it feel like it's all one place, like it's one cohesive location. And I think that works for me. It is all play it by ear and do it as much, change things as much as you feel like they need to be changed to match. And then we're going to do one more thing that is going to seem a little weird. And we are going to, above this layer, we are going to add a new layer. So I'm going to press that. So on this new layer, I'm going to paint some white. And I'm going to make it super soft, super fluffy. I am just going to paint a kind of big stripe of white across there. And I am going to turn my people back on, my other things, and adjust this. So we're going to play around with how this affects the light. Soft light gives me just a little whisper of light. And what it's going to do is it's going to help my people to pop out a little bit. So this soft light, I can play around with this layer. Like do I want this to be a little whiter? Maybe, maybe not. I don't want to do too much here. It's just enough to kind of help the people pop. If I need to turn down the opacity of it, I can, so that it blends a little bit more. But the idea is it kind of blends the background, and it also helps the people stand out a little bit more. So it helps the person stand out a little bit more. The final steps of this is going to be fine-tuning the color balance and things of the rest of the items here, the boat, the girl, the fish. And for that, I am going to save that for another video, because I've just given you plenty to do. And then we will have one more video with the final adjustments just to pull everything together.